fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
Start your day with Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal. The instant oatmeal ready to help you tackle whatever your day brings. Like wrangling your toddler into their car seat. That was fun. Coaching your 6th graders soccer team. Go girls! And carrying all the groceries in one trip. Whew. Try Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal, granola, and bars. Great taste and a good source of protein. Quaker, bring out the good.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to episode number 806 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. Have we calmed down yet? Have we breathed yet? I know I have. Maybe not the breaths that I normally take, but it's not called Survive. It's not called Thrive in Advance. It's called Survive in Advance. I'm Donald One. I'm your host for this episode. I have Jason Evans with me as we recap the quarterfinal round of the ACC tournament. Duke outlast Florida State 80-79. Jason, show me your hands. How you feeling? How are your nerves?
Yeah. Am I still shaking? I might be shaking a little bit. That was nerve-wracking. That was not fun. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Not fun, Donald.
Yeah. So for everyone out there, I ended up watching the game, but I also was doing double duty. I was covering a soccer game that I just got home for. So we are recording at 10:40 p.m. at night. We do not know yet who our opponent is. Clemson and UNC, I believe, are at halftime as of right now. Clemson holding a small lead at halftime. So you may not get a lot of prep about tomorrow's game, but hey, we have a game tomorrow to prepare for. So what this episode is going to be about is really talking about what we saw in this game and what we need to work on for next game. So Jason, I did not, because I was pulling double duty. You have a lot of the headlines tonight, so I'm going to turn it to you for some of the best ones we got to our inbox.
Yeah, exactly. Let me start with David Futterman. He said Duke survives Knowles by the slimmest of margins, and he put a 3 in there for the slimmest, for the E and slimmest. I like that, even though that's a better visual one than audio one. Usually we don't play those here in the podcast, but I said, what the heck, David, I'll give it to you. Courtney Kruger gave us Showtime in Charlotte brings a slim win. We had a whole bunch of slim wins and Showtimes and such because Isaiah Evans, player of the game. Jason Beer. This is a little bit of alliteration times 2, if you will. He gave us free throw fumbles nearly foil Duke, but Evans blocks and bombs bury the Seminoles. I like that, Jason. Jacob Smith. This is really good. Lights, camera, showtime. Career high leads to slim Duke victory. Travis Simone. Donald, this one is great. This is really great. Travis Simone, who points out he is a Duke Divinity grad. So This is a man who knows his Bible. His headline is this: Isaiah 32:7. By thy threes thou shalt be saved.
And the church said, amen.
Amen. Exactly. And lastly, we have a limerick from Mark Epperson. Mark's limerick goes like this: missing starters created some holes, but dudes stepped up, played different roles. It was the process that they trusted as they stood strong and adjusted. A Duke victory, eliminating the Noles. Nice job there, Mark.
That is good. Thank you for everybody. And again, we're going to get more headlines, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. So I apologize. We apologize to everyone who is submitting them right now, thinking we were going to record maybe tomorrow. We're still going to read them, and we may respond to a couple of them that we like that aren't on the show.
Yeah. Hey, Donald, and now that we've done the headlines, I want to mention a couple advanced stat things really quick. Before this game started, we talked about this. Duke was above a plus 40 in KenPom. We were at 40.57 before the game started. We had a insane defensive rating of 87.9 in KenPom prior to the game starting. If you want to know how bad this game was for Duke, our KenPom rating fell from a 40.57 to a 39.35. Our defense fell by almost a point to an 88.8. I know I've said a lot of numbers there. The bottom line is this game was like, this was, at least according to like Bart Torvik, this was Duke's third worst game of the entire season. Only the Georgia Tech game and the Lipscomb games were worse than this. This was even worse than Duke's first game against Florida State. And by the way, we've now fallen, even though we're still number one at KenPom by a very slim margin, we've fallen barely to number 2 in Bart Torvik's rankings. I don't think any of this really matters. If Duke keeps on winning, I'm convinced that Duke is going to get the overall number 1 seed. I'm also convinced that no matter what happens, Duke is going to get a number 1 seed, and I think we'll be no worse than the overall number 2. But it's still worth noting that this game was, I'm not sure if to call this game an outlier or just that Florida State has our number or something like that. But man, it was this was not like watching the Duke team that we're used to watching.
I mean, look, Florida State has our number for a team that's lost to us twice, but in those 2 games, they have scored the most points on us this year. And this night was the 3rd most points, tied for the 3rd most that anyone has scored on Duke this year. But
yeah, Texas Tech and Florida State both got above 80. Only teams do that. And then Florida State got to 79 in this game. It's just very impressive.
Georgia Tech got 79. So those are those are your top 4 essentially of the year. But Jason, let's save some of that for the bad. Let's talk about the good. I want to start because every time I looked at my computer, every time I looked at this TV, Isaiah Slim Showtime, Slim Reaper, whatever you want to call him, Evans was the man. And again, by the slimmest of margins, we are still undefeated when he hits 3 or more threes in a game. But Jason, it wasn't 3 that we're looking at. That number was 7. He 7 for 16 from 3, a couple of them pretty timely threes. And I think also just he was 4 for 4 from 2. One of the plays that we'll talk about a little bit later was him slashing to the basket as part of a team play. But man, we needed every bit of those 32 points, a career high for Isaiah Evans.
Yeah, like you said, 7 3-pointers in this game. That's a career high. 16 total threes attempted. That's a career high. 32 total points. That's a career high. Took a total of 20 shots. That's a career high. He had 6 rebounds. I didn't bother to look. 6 rebounds might be a career high for him. I didn't even bother to look that up. But and like you said, it wasn't just the threes. He hit 4 of 4 twos, and especially in the first half, he was sort of taking it on himself to generate his own shot a lot more than we usually see him doing. Look, I'm gonna go ahead and say I didn't love the final possession where he kind of dribbled away the entire clock and didn't accomplish much of anything, and then put Cam in a situation where Cam could not get off a shot there. But it all worked out in the end. But yeah, Isaiah was incredible in this game, and it's worth noting the KenPom MVP, which has been won by Mr. Cam Boozer 7 games in a row. Cam almost always wins the KenPom MVP. Not in this game. The MVP of this game was Isaiah Slim Showtime Evans.
And again, I think in a game where we were down to 7 players, there's all the excuses written in the world. I will say, first off, hats off to Florida State because they made us play
for sure
to the very, very end, right? And they were a team that wanted this game. They had mentioned after they beat Cal yesterday that they're like, this is a revenge game for us. We thought we had them and we should have beaten them. We feel like we can take them in this time around. And never was there the excuse that you had two starters on the little wheelie crutches in Caleb Foster and Pat Gongba.
Those things look like fun, man. Did you see? I saw a video of them wheeling their way into the locker room before the game. They're going kind of fast around curves and stuff. I'm like, those things look like fun, but they're not fun.
They're not fun because of why you get them. You don't inherit them because you were doing well at school. You inherit them because you have an injury. And so I think
I did love Slim. I'm sorry, not Slim. I did love Cephas jumping up and down on the bench on one leg.
Oh, they both were. Yeah, there was a point where you kind of saw them both kind of hopping, and I was almost wanting to say, hey, I appreciate you. Sit down.
Yeah,
you guys are fine. You guys are excused from having to get up every possession. But again, down to 7 players, they focused on a mysterious dude named Brock Davis at the end of the bench who was dressed for this game. Wait, because we're going to talk about that. But the fact is that 7 guys had to win this game. If you look at this, Cameron Boozer had 23 points. Isaiah Evans had 32 points. No one else was in double digits. And I think when it comes to Isaiah Evans, he took it upon himself to say, if we're going to have more scoring, I need to be the one that really steps up in that department. Hitting the threes, again, driving to the lane, getting buckets. I think he possessed himself to say, this is the time for me to be Showtime. I need to be Showtime in this game because the team needs scoring. We don't have Pat. We don't have Caleb. We need somebody else to take the pressure off of Cameron Boozer when we're talking about the offensive end. That is my job as the second scorer, but tonight he became the first scorer.
Yeah, and I think, look, this Duke team showed incredible resiliency in this game. I mean, Florida State had an 8-point lead, and it felt like Duke was reeling. And then we went on a 19-2 run and held them scoreless for nearly 5 minutes. And the story of the game really is the rebounding. There's no question about that. Duke wins the battle of the boards 46-25. That's just that's an outrageous advantage. And it's the only reason we won this game. Corey Alexander on the play-by-play, on the color, I should say, I think there's a disconnect between his brain and his mouth. He says some of the stupidest stuff around. He kept on saying that we had 75% of our missed shots we'd offensive rebounded. He was wrong. I think he was getting confused between 2-point offensive rebounding and 3-point offensive rebounding. But regardless, we offensive rebounded 54% of our missed shots, 22 offensive rebounds. Florida State has just 19 defensive rebounds. It allowed us to win second chance points 24-7, a 17-point advantage in second chance points in a game you only win by 1 point. That's a big deal. Mm-hmm. That's probably the reason you won. And I just thought especially Maliq Brown. A ridiculous 8 offensive rebounds for him. He had more offensive rebounds than the entire Florida State team combined. Malik also had 3 steals.
At a certain point, he had more offensive rebounds than Florida State had total rebounds.
Yeah,
he had that going for him for most of the first half.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was going to say, Malik also had 3 steals and 2 blocks. Look, I didn't love that he missed 4 free throws. And he felt a little less involved on offense than I thought he would. Even though he got 3 assists, I thought he'd be a little more, especially catching maybe some lobs and stuff like that, and Duke running the offense to him. But there wasn't quite as much of that as I would have expected. But the bottom line was Malik was sort of the guy leading the way on what was a dominant rebounding performance by Duke. And again, the singular reason that the Blue Devils are still playing is because of our rebounding.
I thought the rebounding was the best part of this game. And yes, that includes Slim on offense and Cam on offense. I thought the rebounding, like you said, saved us in a lot of possessions. There were so many times where we got a rebound and went back up and either got the bucket and got fouled, or at least we went to the free throw line because we had great positioning. I think when you have 7 guys, it's very difficult sometimes to tell your brain, to tell your legs that they need to not be tired. And that presents itself the most in not being in the right position to get a rebound. And it felt like, at least in that particular part of the basketball game, Duke was the most fleetest of foot. Duke had 17 subs and everybody was fresh all the time because we had positioning. We had to kind of trick our bodies into saying we need to be in the right position to get these rebounds, because at a certain point our legs are not going to be there. We're not going to be able to leap over these guys. So we need to be in the right position so that when the ball does hit that rim, it comes down to us. I thought they did great at being in the right places so that whenever there was a rebound, nobody could get it but a guy in a white shirt.
You know, you were talking about Cam a moment ago, and I'm going to go ahead and this may be sacrilege, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I thought Cameron Boozer had a little bit of a subpar game. That seems insane in a game where he had 23 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. It seems bonkers to say that was a subpar game, but to me it really was. First of all, he had 5 turnovers. Cam has done a great job of cleaning up the turnovers in recent games, and that didn't happen in this game, and we're going to talk more about turnovers a little bit later. But he only shot 7 of 16 from the field, just 5 of 11 on 2-point field goals. That's unlike Cameron Boozer. There were several shots that he missed that I was like, wow, that it just seemed different than what we usually get from Cam. And I wonder if perhaps, you know, he's feeling a little extra pressure. There's no Pat, and Pat is a really good offensive player. So he's feeling a little extra pressure. There's no CFOS. He's feeling a little extra pressure to create and stuff like that. I want Cam to, if he can, play the way Cam normally plays and not try to do too much. And I'd also point out, Cam's defense. Cam is a great defender. His defense to me wasn't quite what it usually is. He was mostly matched up with LeJay Jones, and there were times that Jones was just torching him. So, you know, like I say, 23, 10, 4, led the team. Incredible, but I thought it was a subpar game from him, and he'll play better.
I mean, you're getting into the bad. We're going to save a little bit of that for the bad, but let me get back to some of the good stuff from this, because
yes. Sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, no, you're good. I think the one thing also, Jason, again, this is more of a team good here. Again, when you are down a couple of guys and you know that you're going to have a shrunken rotation, you need contributions from everybody. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? We just saw that. This was not a perfect game, but everyone on this team contributed in some way. Again, Cam with the points, Slim with his shooting, Maliq with his rebounding, Dame with his defense, and really there was a key block that he had there. Caden Boozer at a certain point had a little stretch there where it felt like he was in the right positions to either play some
talk about right
defense.
Position. Caden had the winning bucket from the right position.
Right, but I mean, like, again, making a bucket or even on defense, just being in there to kind of force a bad shot. Nick Minia had a couple of N1s that I thought were great. He had a couple of, again, hustle plays where he kind of made things happen on that steal where it was kind of like a bing, bang, bong play. He was involved in getting the ball out of there and making it where it was a quick outlet to get down the floor quickly. And I will say, Darren Harris, despite the fact that he had 0 points, you know what other thing was in his stat line? He had 3 offensive rebounds. And again, 3 times where he was able to, he's not scoring, but he was able to make a play. And sometimes in these tournaments, you can't rely on your scoring all the time. You can't rely on the things that you do great every single night. So you have to figure out how to contribute in some way. And I think all of these guys did just enough. Sure, it's 80-79, but they did just enough as a team to get over the hump. But to do that, it was by making these plays on an individual level that in total was able to surmount the Seminoles.
Yeah, I want to focus on 2 guys in the good who I really thought had excellent games, and not guys who necessarily you would have thought were going to stand out in the way they did. The first one is Nick Minia, who played a lot of point. Like, if there was some question, who's the backup point guard? It's Nick Minia. And in fact, because of foul trouble, Nick played more point guard than Caden did in the first half. Now, like we sort of expected, Donald, Duke did a lot of putting the ball in Cam Boozer's hand, like immediately. And Cam even, functionally played point, brought the ball up the floor a number of times. We
talked about that on the preview, that there would be times where someone would just take it across half court and then immediately give it to Cam to set up the offense and actually run the offense.
Cam even brought it over half court sometimes, but Nick was also playing a pretty good bit of point guard. I thought he did a perfectly fine job at that. And I thought Nick played some really, really strong defense at times. There was a couple of possessions actually where he was guarding Chauncey Wiggins. Donald, I talked about I thought Chauncey Wiggins was a big wild card for this game, and that if he had a big game, he's had 30-point games for this Florida State team. I was like, if he has a big game, it could be a huge deal for Florida State. And I thought Nick guarded him a lot in this game, and Chauncey Wiggins ends up with 13 points, but only takes 8 shots and was really not very involved in their offense in the second half. Now, we're going to talk about the guys who were involved in their offense a little bit later on. But I thought Nick played very, very nice on defense. You mentioned his hustle, and he filled up the box score pretty nicely. 9 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. I really thought we needed this kind of game from Nick Homenia, and he brought it for us. And then the other guy I wanted to mention was Dame Sarr. So Dame plays 35 minutes in this game. He had a plus-minus of +10. So 35 minutes he's on the floor, Duke is +10. The 5 minutes he's off the floor, Duke was -9. I mean, and the thing that I noticed about Dame wasn't a great offensive game for him. I mean, we know that. Dame gets a total of 3 points. He hits 1, 2, and hits 1 out of 2 free throws. He 1 for 5 from the field. Dame's not a big offensive player for Duke, but man, that defense at times, it was stunning. You saw his ability to stay in front of his man and recover, like when guys make spin moves or when guys are going downhill. It is incredibly rare to see a guy. It's one thing when a dude's going fast and you're able to stand him up, but usually when that happens, when the guy then makes his secondary move, he's usually able to put you in a bad spot, and that doesn't happen with Dame. His feet move so fast, his arms are so long. He is just, his ability to wall off the basket and keep you from getting a good shot. I just saw it again and again where Jones and McRae, who are just outstanding with the ball in their hands, especially McRae, would try to go to the basket, try to get in the lane on Dame, and Dame be like, nope, I'm stopping you here. Nope, I'm stopping you there. They just couldn't get what they wanted. And if you go back and watch, like Robert McRae scored most of his points when Dame Sarr was switched off of him. Like they would find a way to get someone other than Dame guarding McRae, and then McRae be like, yes, clear out. I'm taking the ball now. I don't have this guy all over me. I thought Dame's defense was, in a game where Duke struggled on defense immensely, Dame was the highlight of the defense.
The last couple of things I have, one is a good and one is a not good, not bad, but I'm just going to put it in this section. The first thing is we had 17 assists at a 60% clip, 60% assist rate. And other than Caden Boozer, funny enough, and Darren Harris, everyone had 3 or more assists.
I noticed everybody was really impressive.
Yeah, that's very impressive to do. Now, Jason, the one thing that I have that's not a good or not a bad is a question. I obviously was watching this game again while covering a soccer game. I was in the press box, so I had this game on mute. Short of the people watching using the home stream app, I was the best winner here because I didn't have to listen to Corey Alexander at all. But I need to ask this question. Who is Brock Davis, and why did they show him on the broadcast so much during the first half?
So here's the story on Brock Davis. I've done a little digging on this. First of all, Brock Davis is Brian Davis's son. Duke legend.
Looks just like him.
Yeah. Back-to-back national titles for Brian Davis. Christian, a good buddy of Christian Laettner over the years and such. Brian Davis's son is Brock Davis. He is a senior. He has been a practice player, and especially lately they've needed him with guys hurt and stuff like that. Look, let's not forget we're also missing Iffy. We're missing a lot of guys, and so we've called in some extra practice players. And Duke actually suited him up for this game and added him to. My understanding is they added him to the roster. He was eligible to play. He was in the book and eligible to play in this game. He's a senior, as I mentioned. He is a computer science genius. He's like one of the team leaders of Duke has something called Code Plus, which is a special, computer science coding kind of lab.
I've heard of it.
He's one of the team leaders there. Like, dude is definitely, he's a bright guy. And here's some real deep dive for you, Donald. For a couple of years, he played club basketball at Duke. Duke has a very successful men's club basketball team. And twice while he played club basketball, he was the National Club Basketball Association Player of the Week. Like, he was a really good club, like 20 plus points, really good club basketball player. So again, he's been added to the roster. I think highly, highly unlikely that you will see him appear in a game unless the margin is 20 plus points and less than a minute or so remaining. But good on Brock Davis. he is officially a member of the Duke Blue Devil basketball team. And obviously the place he's going to have the most significance is in practice. Duke needs practice bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thank you for that explanation, because I did a little bit of a dive, but I had to kind of scour the internet for information on who this mysterious guy was, because I didn't have the element of sound when it came to that explanation on the broadcast.
Well, they didn't talk about him very much on the broadcast. I did my own digging to find most of those things.
Yeah, they showed him quite a bit, because I was like,
yeah.
who's this guy? But no, it's good that he's on the team. And again, like you mentioned, practice bodies are necessary. Let's take a
Actually, wait. I got one more thing. You were talking about something that's neither good nor bad. I got something else it's half good, half bad. So I'm going to do it here, and then we'll take the break. Duke shot 20 free throws in the first half. That's a big old number. We'll talk about what happened on those free throws, but 20 free throws in a half is a really big number. On the other hand, we only shot 3 free throws in the second half. So, 23 free throws is a decent number for the game, but I just wanted to compliment us getting to the free throw line in the first half. 20 free throws, but only 3 in the second half. Florida State committed 13 fouls in the first half, just 6 in the second half. I don't know. Is that good or is that bad? Maybe we should take a break and then figure it out.
That's what whistle is tight. That is for sure. That I didn't need sound to see when they were and were not blowing the whistle. But let's take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to talk about the things to improve from this game, and we'll talk about our play of the game as we continue on the Duke Basketball Roundup.
Walmart Business is in the business of helping your business. Regardless of whether you're building bridges, building spreadsheets, or building lesson plans. Ooh, that looks fun. Walmart Business can help save you time, money, and hassle, so you can focus on what you're building instead of what your supply closet is missing. In short, we take care of business, so you can do more with yours. We're the Walmart you love, now for your business. Learn more at business.walmart.com.
Disney Plus wants to know, are you ready? For Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, The New Avengers, now streaming on Disney Plus.
Let's do this.
One of the best Marvel movies of all time is now streaming on Disney Plus.
Hey, you weren't listening to me.
I said Thunderbolts, The New Avengers is now streaming on Disney Plus.
Meet the New Avengers.
That's a cool name.
Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, The New Avengers, rated PG-13, now streaming on, you guessed it, Disney Plus.
All right, we are back, and we shift our attention to the things to work on from this game. And again, it wasn't perfect. Dare I say it, sometimes it was very, very sloppy. So I do want to lead with that, Jason. 15 turnovers, and most of the turnovers that I saw were ones that were not necessarily careless. That's the wrong word, but it was definitely, passes that were outside of the rhythm of the offense. They were trying to force something. They knew it wasn't going to get through. It was kind of like a Hail Mary sort of thing to kind of try and fire something through a crowd. And again, credit to Florida State. They were ready for those type of passes, and they were marching all over us. But I think that's what kept them in this game, was the sloppiness overall, but really the turnovers. You hate that number 12 when we go over it. And, this is where it's a bad number because it almost costs us the game.
Yeah, 12 is my magic number on turnovers, and we were well beyond that. I thought, I noticed especially in the first half, Maliq Brown had Butterfingers. There were a couple passes that I was like, oh, that's going to be 2 points. And then nope, Maliq didn't catch it. So in fact, I think even though Cam had 5 turnovers, I think 1 or 2 of them probably should have belonged to Maliq because he had some trouble with a couple of those passes. To me, the thing that bothered me the most wasn't anything on offense. It was our defense. The D just wasn't even close to what Duke usually does. I mentioned earlier, Duke hadn't given up more than 70 points in the game since January 10th. We gave up 79. We let guys on Florida State get hot, and then we did little to slow them down. I mean, first of all, tip the cap, of course, to LeJay Jones, who hit some ridiculous, he hit a 3-pointer at one point with 2 guys in his face under pressure. I mean, he was well guarded, but he was knocking stuff down. But this Duke team usually has an answer to that, and it didn't feel like we did in this game. And Robert McCray was just able to attack the paint at will in the first half. On the game, Florida State hit 65% of their 65% from 2 for Florida State, 40% from 3. Those numbers are just unlike Duke. They aren't what you usually see from the Blue Devils. And oh my gosh, we had a kill shot against us, Donald. They had a 10-0 run against us. We had that early lead, and it completely evaporated as Caden was missing 3-pointer after 3-pointer. Should I just segue into the missed 3-pointers now? Oh my God.
Well, real quickly, you mentioned that just the overall defense and that number of 70 points. I just want to give you the list of the teams that have scored 70 points since we gave up 75 to SMU back on January 10th. UNC, that's it. And that was on a last-second 3-pointer, right?
Yeah.
So we had been really, that was the point where we said our defense really turned a new leaf and became this monster that we've seen over the past month and a half, almost 2 months. And today, again, it felt like Florida State, who, again, we gave up the most points to so far this season, they were, first of all, motivated. They wanted to show that they were better than that outing, that they could overcome those 4 points that we had against them to win. And I think also they were taking some really tough shots. There were some possessions where I thought we did great with defense, and then Florida State would hit a tough shot, but then that really lowered our confidence, so that on other possessions, Florida State had it a lot easier. And I think that's where it was out of rhythm. We have been excellent over the last 2 months at making teams not feel like they can get an easy bucket on us. And there were a lot of easy buckets in this game that I think were uncharacteristic to how we've been playing. And we definitely need to clean that up over the next 24 hours.
I mentioned a second ago that we got a kill shot against us. And I wanted to note that the kill shot ended because Nick Jimenez went in the lane, had a nice pump fake and a drive, and he got an and one, and he promptly missed the and one. Duke kept on missing our and ones. We hit just 11 of 20 free throws in the first half, 11 of 20, 55%. But that's deceptive, Donald, because we hit our last 4 in a row. At one point, Duke was 7 of 16 on free throws. Oh my God. It was just tough to watch. And it wasn't just us missing the free throws. We also missed a ton of open 3-pointers. Caden Boozer, 0 for 5. In the second half, they were just daring him to shoot. They were like basically not guarding him. In fact, I think Duke changed up the way we were running offense. We put Caden in the middle of the zone because Florida State was not guarding. He was useless to us on the perimeter. So we tried to get Caden inside a little bit more. Dame was 0 for 3 on threes. Nick was 1 for 4. Duke hit just 29% of our 3-pointers, and players not named Isaiah Evans were just 3 of 18 on 3-pointers. Wow. And the other thing was Duke took more threes than we used, not by a huge margin. I mean, we're a team that usually shoots like 45% of our shots from 3, but we took 34 threes in this game and just 32-point shots. So we were relying on the 3 more than usual. And in a game where you're going to hit only 29%, that's a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, I think the 3-point shooting, and again, the 3-point shooting, I thought we took some really good shots. It wasn't like there was a couple forced ones, but for the most part, I thought we were taking within the flow of the offense, and we were just missing.
Look, Isaiah had that one. Isaiah had that 3-pointer where he was wide open in the corner with like 2 minutes left or so, 2.5 minutes. I forget exactly how much time, but it was a moment where you were like, he's going to nail this and this game's over. And he missed it. And then it became,
right. And it was
tight for comfort.
It was a 6-point game, I believe, at that point. It would have made it 9 as the next time down, Florida State hits a 3 and makes it a 3-point game. And then it was back and forth the rest of the way. And even when we hit threes, our defense would give up a 3 on the other end. It just felt like we couldn't really put them out of arm's reach. And it's because of some of those shots. Other
than that 19-2 run where we had a 5-minute stretch where Florida State didn't score, that Florida State was scoring against us really, really easily, and that's so bothersome. I'm going to go on the record and say I think this was an aberration. I think this was the team maybe a little bit wigged out about playing with only 7 guys, trying to figure some different things out. We played more zone than we have in a long, long time. I think John was experimenting, trying to make things work. Florida State had some guys who were way hotter than they usually are. There were just a lot of factors that I think contributed to it. I don't think you'll see that same thing tomorrow when Duke plays in the ACC semifinals that our defense has been too good. Our defense was too good against Carolina when we were missing Caleb and Pat for it to be like this consistently. I'm convinced this game is a one-off, but man, it was not fun to watch on the defensive side.
I also think, again, going back to the fact that we have 7 guys, roles change when something like that happens. They happened last year, right? When Maliq and Cooper went down, we had Conca-Nipple was like, all right, I got to be the guy, right? Because the main guy's out, so it's got to be me. Everyone has their different roles that they have on a regular basis, and sometimes it takes a night or two to get your rhythm in the newish role that you're going to have, especially when it's temporary, right? We're having a new role until Pat comes back, and then that is going to hold until hopefully we advance far enough that Caleb can come back. So I'm not too concerned about it, but again, the concerning part of it is that we have, about 24 hours to think it through and get our legs back and figure out how to go again and really get back into the rhythm of these new roles and new responsibilities that all these guys are picking up.
Last comment I have in the needs improvement is Darren Harris. Man, I really thought Darren was going to be in for a bigger role and be a little bit of a difference maker for this team. I would have wagered big money on that happening in this game, and unfortunately I was wrong. Darren had been playing really well lately, but he only gets 8 minutes in this game, in a game where we needed a little more help off the bench. We've only got 7 guys, and for him to only get 8 minutes, barely played in the second half. At his plus minus, Don, did you see this? He plays 8 minutes. His plus minus is -9. Whew, that's rough. You mentioned he had those 3 strong offensive rebounds. He plays hard all the time. It's not Darren's effort by any stretch of the imagination. I do think, and I hadn't really thought about this until watching this game and how it played out. I think the fact that Duke is missing our primary rim protection in Patrick Gungba, the fact that we are missing a really, really good perimeter defender in Caleb Foster, it may make it a little bit harder to find time for Darren, because on a team full of really good defenders, Darren's one of he's one of the worst defenders. I'm not saying it to insult him or anything like that, and it's got nothing to do with his effort. But the reality is that Darren is not one of our better defenders. And when you're missing 2 guys who are super important to what you're doing on defense, it can sometimes become harder to find room for a guy who maybe isn't as versatile of a defender as the rest of the guys on the team. I think that may have been part of why we couldn't find time for Darren in this game.
So I think with Darren, right, it's about what you want from him, what his role is going to be. Is his role to come in and hit 3 threes and score 9, 10, 11 points? If that's his role, that's going to be, as we've seen, very inconsistent throughout the day. Is it to come in and kind of provide hustle and really win those 50-50 moments when he's on the floor? If that's the case, then yeah, that's also going to be inconsistent. But I think for him, when it comes to, again, having 7 guys, there's going to be still somebody who's going to be odd man out. And it was always going to be him in this current rotation. But that doesn't mean that tomorrow he can't show up and hit a couple of threes and get a couple of rebounds and do some of this dirty work on defense. He doesn't have to be perfect, but he needs to, again, produce in ways that helps this team. And I saw some of that tonight. It's, again, no one had a perfect game, and he definitely didn't have a perfect game, especially on offense. But I think tomorrow is another day for him to come up and another opportunity for him to take advantage of. I hope he's ready to do that. I think he is. And again, like kind of some of these other things, it sometimes takes a little bit of an extra to say, this is your role right now. This is what we need you to do. They could have said, we don't need you to hit 15 threes. Slim's doing that. We need you to provide defense. We need you to do something like that. So we're still in this corner, and hopefully he'll produce in as many ways as he possibly can tomorrow. Everyone as well. Jason, before we get to play the game, just want to make a quick update because people were doing this real time. It is currently 10:50 left in the second half. Clemson is up on UNC 61-46. We're still not previewing that game, but just want to give you an update of where we are in life as we record this episode.
Well, and by the way, if folks haven't been able to watch that game, Clemson's Carter Welling, who's one of their better players, a 10-point per game scorer for them, Carter Welling tore his ACL, and he is out for the rest of the season. So, look, Duke is not the only team dealing with injuries. Obviously, we know about Carolina. There are tons of injuries across college basketball.
He did that yesterday, correct? He did.
Yeah,
that.
He did.
Okay, so it was announced today.
They announced today that he's out. But Clemson's a very, very deep team. Like, they've already played 9 guys in this game. They got about 7 different guys at least who all play like equal minutes. I don't expect. Look, losing Carter Welling affects their depth for sure, but I don't expect Clemson to be like really on a short rotation if they win this game. And right now, as you say, they've got a pretty sizable lead on Carolina.
And if Carolina comes back and wins, it's Duke UNC Part 3. And so in some ways, you may not want it any other way. I don't care. But either way, we're going to be in for a tough matchup against a team who is struggling with injuries just like we are. Jason, let's get to our play of the game. I have mine, but I'm going to let you go first. Which one you got?
Dude, I'm going to let you go ahead and take it because I've got a backup play of the game. Because I know there's one play. We know what the play of the game is. Tell us
Go ahead and say it then. Go ahead and say it. Say it.
All right.
I want you to say it.
9:56 left. Duke has just taken the lead. Florida State is inbounding the ball, and Maliq knocks it away. Incredible play by Maliq to knock it away. Nick Kamenia makes a great save on the sidelines, throws it right back to Maliq, and Maliq, like, without even blinking. Now, he's facing the wrong direction. Without even blinking, he gets the ball to Dame, who is Donald. Dame was moving fast, my friend.
Flying.
Dame was moving up the floor with speed. And Dame, starts to attack, finds Isaiah for a layup. That bang, 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 you said it a couple times, bang, bang, bang is not even, that play happened so damn fast. My wife was watching the game with me, and I paused, and she said, "What are you pausing for?" And I said, "I've got to back up, watch that play again, and write down everything that happened because it happened so fast that I didn't even see it all." And she goes, "Yeah, I want to see that play again too." That was incredible.
My best friend and 3 other people texted me as soon as that play happened, and it just said, "Play of the game." And I was like, thankfully, Jeff, thank you so much, Jeff. He gave me the time because I was looking up and down, and then he sent me the link so that I could watch it over and over and over again because Duke put that out almost immediately on social media. So appreciate that. But yes, that is my play of the game because, again, it was the team aspect of that play. And you can see at that point for me, I was like, okay, this game feels like we're about to make this kill shot and make it count. Of course, it naturally didn't end up that way, but that is the play that you need when you have 7 guys. You need everyone to contribute at one point to the team goal.
I've got a backup play of the game. It's, again, clearly that play in the second half in the midst of Duke's big run is the play of the game. But I also want to shout out at 10:20 in the first half, there was a possession where 3 different Blue Devils, I thought, played some of the best defense we saw all game. One-on-one defense, walling off the lane. It started with Cam, then Isaiah, and then finally Nick. And all 3 of them were facing a Florida State guy who tried to, I'm going to take this guy one-on-one. I'm going to and just stood them up each and every time. The possession ends with Nick defending Chauncey Wiggins, who went up for a terrible contested mid-range. I mean, the shot clock's almost dead. Wiggins had no choice, but Nick absolutely, made it so there was no chance Wiggins was going to hit that shot. Dame Sarr swoops in, grabbed the rebound, immediately began pushing up the floor. The defense had to come to him to stop him. He dropped a really nice dime to Cameron Boozer, who made the bucket, got fouled. It was an and one. He, of course, missed the and one because Duke missed all their and ones in this game. But I love the way different guys on Duke played solid defense, standing up their opponents, not letting the guys get to the spot they wanted to, and then Duke turned it into offense almost instantly. It was a great sequence that is the second play of the game.
So, Jace, remember in 2015, we had a point where we were down to 8 players, and Coach K famously said 8 is enough. That team ended up winning the national title. I believe that you can reach heaven with 7. And so we will take another step towards heaven tomorrow, again, either against Clemson or UNC, but that will do it for this episode of the Duke Basketball Roundup. We will be back in your feeds after that game tomorrow, after the ACC semis. That will be around roughly 9:30 p.m. on the East Coast. Again, there is a game that will be played beforehand. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But there will be a game before that, and then our game around roughly 9:30 p.m. We will be back at some point after that game to recap it all. So until then, he's Jason. I'm Donald. Survive in advance time with Duke Band to play us out and take us to tomorrow.